Well, good morning or good evening. We are here on Facebook on the Morning Report page. We appreciate you being here. We'll wait for a few people to get in. We appreciate that, but we got to get going. I just did a Facebook live that some of you caught. We got to do a live here, and we're going to do a regular video of this that's going to be on sometime next week. So we're trying to get this to you. We're really trying to get this to you. I was scrolling X just now, which I really shouldn't do. It's just a big comment thing, and I don't read the comments from posts normally because don't. It's just insanity, and the high level of stupidity that comes out of people's keyboards on their computers or their phones is just amazing and hard to deal with. And of course, last weekend we saw all the No Kings marches, and that were basically wrapped around illegal immigration. And I have to wonder, do people really know? My guess is that they do, and they don't care, because I just can't imagine that everybody is stupid. Well, maybe maybe I can, maybe I should recognize that a lot of people are indeed stupid. So let's talk about this a little bit. We're going to talk about uh, what the real reality is if you come into the country illegally here in the U.S. and in Mexico. I thought that was a fair comparison, seeing that we're on the same continent. We share a border. Things are similar. Mexico's got big cities like Mexico City, and they've got airports, and they've got industry, and they've got government, and they've got a lot of the things that we do. They have agriculture. They have a lot of things that we have here. They do. Let's talk about it. What happens when you enter the U.S. illegally? Someone crosses into the U.S. illegally. What happens? Usually, they're briefly detained, fingerprinted, and then either held in a facility, or more often, they're released into the interior of the country with a notice to appear in court. That's what they're talking about when they're talking about catch and release. So, is there a notice to appear in court like in a few hours? Don't go anywhere because we're having court here at 3 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock now, so stick around. No. We're having your court date is 3 years from now. Good luck. Make sure you're back here. Your court date is 3 years from now, and sometimes even longer than that. Can you imagine? Even if it were 6 months, it'd be too long. And here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Once released, depending on where they land, let's say New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, Seattle, they may actually qualify for housing, public education, or even legal representation paid for by taxpayers. Now, I know a lot of people don't think that those are benefits, but when you need, imagine needing an attorney and not being able to afford one. If someone were to give you one, say you could go to this office and taxpayers would pay for it, you'd consider that a benefit. If there were no public schools and every school you had that you had access to for your kids, you had to pay money, and then suddenly someone said, "No, you don't have to pay it. It's in your kids." You think that was a benefit. If you had nowhere to live, if you were homeless, I know we don't use that word anymore. If you were unhoused, homeless, and then you needed someplace to stay, you didn't have any money, and someone said, "Hey, you could stay here with your kids," you think of that as a benefit. And we're not talking about citizens. No, because no, we're not talking about people with green cards. We're talking about people who have entered our country illegally. Now, let's not pretend that everybody gets the red carpet treatment. Some are actually deported. That does happen. But here's a trick. Immigration courts are so backlogged that it could take years before someone even sees a judge. And during that time, they build a life here. They often don't leave. Some politicians even want to give them amnesty. And let's not forget the magic word, asylum. Say you fear persecution, even if it's not verifiable, even if you can't fear that's the truth. Now you've triggered a whole new legal process that might buy you years of delay. Everybody knows that. That's the American system. Or should I say the American loophole? Now, let's see if you're headed down south. Not like at the end of one of my favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption, where both people end up, hanging out in Mexico. Not like all those 40 radio plays where people escape to Mexico. Here's what happens if you enter Mexico illegally. Let's say you sneak across the southern border from Guatemala or Belize. What does Mexico do? Well, they don't wait. You're detained by Mexican authorities, often by their National Guard, and you're held until you're deported. There's no years-long wait. There's no going to the country, build a life. There's no catch and release. And you sure as heck aren't getting any free housing or public benefits. You don't get any public school. You don't get government lawyers. You don't get a driver's license. You get deported. Fast. They put your fat ass on a bus and send you back to where you came from. Mexican laws treat illegal entry as a criminal offense, not just some civil violation. If you're caught again, you are banned from re-entering. Banned. You can never come back for any reason. There's no sanctuary cities. There's no mainstream political party championing your cause. In Mexico, immigration laws still mean something. Imagine that. Wow. Let's go ahead and check this out again. The initial treatment you get in the United States. You're often processed, fingerprints, picture, you're given a court date, and out you go. In Mexico, you're detained immediately. You're put in jail. They catch you, you go to jail. The legal process in the United States has a years-long backlog. Mexico, fast-track deportation. Pff, you're out. Access to benefits in the United States, and we talk about what those benefits are: school, housing, emergency health care. None. Here you get that. Mexico, nothing. You're out. Sanctuary cities, like New York, Martha's Vineyard. Wasn't that funny? You had a busload of 50 people and they were having a humanitarian crisis. Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, all of California being a sanctuary state. Remember? It exists in a whole bunch of cities here in the United States. In Mexico, that doesn't exist at all. Not at all. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. Sanctuaries are for animals, like birds and big cats. Asylum rules. Here, just mention the word asylum. It's the magic word. And it's hard to disprove because you have to disprove it. And what you can't prove is a negative. You can't prove that somebody isn't being threatened. It's insane. In Mexico, asylum rules are narrow, very narrow, and strictly enforced. General enforcement of the laws here in the U.S., overworked border patrols. Hard to get to everywhere. Border is long, not nearly enough people. In Mexico, they use the National Guard. Think about that. The National Guard guarding the nation. The National Guard guarding the nation. The political climate here is split with open border advocates. People are in the street. We saw it in the streets, protesting ICE. In Mexico, it's pretty strict across the board. You come here legally. You do what everybody else does. You come here legally. You don't get to just come here and live here. Folks, the contrast is stark. America says, we're compassionate, we're welcoming, we're generous. Mexico says, we have laws, and break them, and you're out. Okay. So, what does that tell us? It tells us this. We are the only country that gets shamed for having a border, while everyone else enforces theirs without apologies. I think there are 193 countries in the world. You look that up. They all have immigration laws, and the United States immigration laws, as far as strictness, is somewhere in the middle, maybe lower middle. In fact, our generosity has become our weakness. It's been weaponized by cartels, human traffickers, and yes, foreign governments that want to send their economic problems north. And I don't mean just Mexicans. I mean Venezuela and Chile and Ecuador and Nicaragua and the like. And when states start to try to do something, like Texas putting up barriers, or here in Florida, relocating migrants, they're villainized. When Abbott and Costello, when Abbott and DeSantis decided, hey, we're just going to round some of these folks up who want to go and take them to Martha's Vineyard. Is there a nicer place in the country than Martha's Vineyard? There aren't many. And Martha's Vineyard had declared themselves a sanctuary city. It seemed to be a perfect fit. So they loaded up a bus of 50 people, 50. And they had a meltdown. An abso-freaking-lutely a meltdown. Really? The truth is, legal immigration isn't about who crosses the border. It's about whether we still believe a nation has a right to define itself, to say who enters and under what conditions. If you don't have enforced borders, frankly, you don't have a country. You've got a suggestion. Here's some final thoughts. So the next time someone tells you it's cruel to stop people at the border, ask them how Mexico does it. Ask them if it's cruel when every other nation on earth defends its sovereignty. Because the United States isn't the bad guy. We're the only country foolish enough to apologize for defending ourselves. And that, my friends, is simply not sustainable. Folks, if you're fired up about this, hit that subscribe button. Tap like on the video, and share this episode with someone who still thinks that no one is illegal. And hey, support independent conservative media while we're still allowed to say this stuff out loud. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the Morning Report. We're not going anywhere, and neither should our borders.